after the First World War, we have initially the Polish-Ukrainian War, during which the Poles, they fight against the Western Ukrainian People's Republic, this small self-proclaimed state that was created around the city of Lviv. And then there is a second Ukrainian state, the Ukrainian People's Republic, centered around Kiev and more or less the rest of Ukraine, so to say, of today's Ukraine. And both of these states initially are fighting a war against Poland. There is a dispute over where the border between the two states should be. However, the Poles and the Soviets, the Bolsheviks, they also initiate fighting around 1918, 1919, around the turn of the year, there around New Year's Eve. The first attack is really by the Reds against the Vilnius area, which the Poles consider a part of their state, as it had been a part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth for centuries up until the partitions. And later on, during February, March 1919, there is more fighting between the Poles and the Red Army in what is today's Belarus. And finally, in the spring of 1920, the Poles, they sign a military treaty with the Ukrainians, and together they continue the war against the Bolsheviks. They push the Red Army back. They take Kiev together. Later on, there is a counterattack. The Red Army reaches Warsaw, but the Ukrainians, especially under Marko Bezruchko, are fighting on the side of the Poles, playing an important role in the defense of Zamość, for example. So there is this Polish-Ukrainian alliance that is in effect, in existence in 1920. Unfortunately, the Poles, they are not strong enough to push the Red Army back far enough on the second attempt after the Battle of Warsaw in order for an independent Ukraine to be created, for there to be enough territory to create an independent Ukraine on. Instead, in the Treaty of Riga in 1921, the area is partitioned between Poland and the Soviet Union. Poland receives the city of Lviv and other cities in its vicinity. Lviv is majority Polish, so are some of the other cities such as Tarnopil. But the countryside has a majority Ukrainian population, creating a situation in which there is, again, there are tensions between the Poles and the Ukrainians, and there is a policy of attempted Polonization of these areas. The Ukrainian language, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, the Ukrainian Catholic Church is treated well, but the Ukrainian Orthodox Church has many of their churches not closed, but rather given back to the Ukrainian Catholic Church, as they had them before the partitions, up until the mid-19th century. So there is some animosity created during the interwar era, which later on erupts, and during the Second World War is in full bloom, so to say. However, with the end of the Second World War, the Poles and the Ukrainians, they realized that despite this bloody conflict, they now have a common enemy, with the Soviet Union and the Red Army having conquered both their states. And in some cases, they even join forces and conduct military operations against the Red Army. However, relations are still quite cool during the Cold War. There is this tension created by the fact that the Soviet Union gave the Lviv area to the Ukrainian the Ukrainian Socialist Republic, a constituent part of the Soviet Union. So there is some hostility between the two sides. But it does disappear over the decades, and during the 70s and 80s there is quite a lot of understanding between the Ukrainians and Poles that they both support each other in their quest for independence.
Adam, sorry, I'm going to have to, the clock in the corner of the room is doing its usual blinking at me, so I'm going to have to ask you to pause there, but fear not, we'll pick it up next time. There we are. I've had to interrupt Adam almost in mid-sentence, but fear not, if you join us next time, as we hope you will, we'll pick up the story here on Poland Daily History. In the meantime, thank you for watching.